Well, there it is. The Aiwa M700 3-head cassette deck that came to me from one of my neighbors who was, back in the 70s, was actually in quite a popular rock and roll band, so maybe we'll get to hear some of his music. I do have a cassette tape here that I believe belongs to this deck, and maybe we'll get lucky and it'll have some of his music on it that he recorded back in the 70s. But let's just take a listen and see what's going on with this thing. We'll open it up and put the tape in and see if there's anything working on here. And I notice that nothing's happening. No tape motion whatsoever, but I do hear a motor running. And looks like the heads are moving on it. Let's just crack this unit open and see what goes on inside this thing, see what the problem is. Maybe it's something simple like a belt. Now, just look at this thing, it's beautiful. I picked this deck up. This thing here has the weight of quality. Like this is 20 pounds easy. And they don't build them like this anymore. I mean, look at inside here. Look inside the head, and there's virtually no wear on this head as well. But take a look inside here. This is beautiful. This is a 3-head design. I'm just going to reposition the camera so you can get a better look inside the tape compartment here. Look at that, it's beautiful. 3-head design, and the tape door should come off here. So now if I take the tape door off and I put it in play, you can see what's happening here, right? Our capstan motor is not turning. Our capstan shaft is not turning, but the head is raised and lowering, and we have no spindles. So I'm thinking, I can hear a motor running. I'm thinking this is probably going to be something relatively minor, such as a belt. We got a display light that's bad here too. We'll see if we can get a new light in here. Let's get the top off this thing and see what's going on with it, shall we? Look at the inside of this machine. It is beautiful. We have 2 motors in here, and it looks like we have belts that are, looks like the belts on both of them are actually shot. Definitely have a belt missing off this one, and this other one here, the belt is actually melted, so we're going to have to get a belt set for this thing. We're not going to get it fixed this evening in this video, as much as I would like to. I'm going to have to get some belts for it, but we do have 2 belts that are definitely gone. I want to make sure that the motors are actually turning. So, yep, that one's going, as is that one. So both motors are actually working on this unit here. The capstan belt is melted, as you can see here. This one here is going to have to be taken apart and cleaned up. I can actually see the remnants of the belt is still on the flywheel. It's actually melted. This one's broken. I don't even know where that belt is, but there's probably pieces of it in here somewhere. But we need 2 new belts to get this unit going, and probably a light bulb for the display. Now it looks like these lights are actually part of the actual panel, or the panel meter itself, but we'll see what we can find for them to get a new light in there. But that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at getting a couple belts, and as soon as I can get into the electronic supplier, we'll get some, and then we'll pick up this video and get this unit back in operation. I'll have another cassette deck that I'll be working on at the same time, but just look at the inside of this thing. It's beautiful. You don't see construction of this type of quality today. Certainly, you don't see it today. Nice discrete electronics, and a couple of ICs in it, but a lot of discrete components. Good heat sinking. Even look at the input and output. Big beefy wires going down to the board. But we're going to have to pull this cassette mechanism apart to actually get into it to replace the belt. The flywheel is looking okay here, but we're going to have to take this all apart to actually replace the belt on here. First things first though, I got to get a couple new belts, and then we'll get them replaced. So I found it is possible to remove the flywheel without actually removing the whole deck. There's a couple screws here you can undo, and this back plate just comes out like that. So now we can remove the flywheel without actually having to remove the entire deck. You should be able to just push it out, and there should be a little, there will be a little washer on the front here which I took off. That's to keep the lubricant into the bearing. So we should be able to slip the slip out the flywheel now so that we can clean it without actually having to remove the whole deck assembly. I think the other belt we might be able to slip it around, but this is what I need to get off. I need to get this gunk off of here, this gunk from the old belt. We need to clean that off and clean off the actual motor pulley itself. Otherwise the new belt will just disintegrate as soon as we put it on. I do have another belt. I have a couple of belts here, and I have one that I think probably is the right size. More than likely this is the right size belt, but I do have a couple of different belts here that may work on this. So I'm gonna just continue on here and see whether we can get the belt replaced on this thing without actually having to take this whole, I was gonna tear the front panel off it, but I thought, you know what, there might be an easier way to do it, and it looks like I've got the flywheel out. I'm halfway there now. I just gotta clean this gunge off of here, the rubber from the old belt, and we're going to use some strong chemicals and a rag to get that off. By strong chemicals, I'm just going to use good old 99% isopropyl alcohol, because that actually does a pretty good job of removing belt residue. It does a really good job of removing it. Somebody was telling me you can use household bleach as well. We'll do it, but you know, alcohol is a little safer to work with than bleach, and it does do a good enough job. Doesn't take much, just a rag, and you're able to clean off most of the stuff without too much effort. As you can see, it'll just dissolve it just like that. So to clean this part, we're just going to get in here with some cotton swab and just wipe off the pulley, spin it around, and it will pull the dirt. It'll pull the rubber left from the old belt right off the brass pulley, no problem, and clean this thing up quite nicely. Back on this Aiwa deck again that I need the belts for. The belts had deteriorated, so we need to determine the size of the belt we need. What I've done is I've just wrapped a piece of wire around the pulleys for the first belt. I got to do the same thing for the capstan belt, but we need to know the size of belt we need. So we wrap around, and I'm just going to mark, well, I've already marked it, but I'm just going to mark where the wires are joined. That way when I unwind them and pull the wire out, now if I take the wires and I wind them back around, this will be the size of the belt that I need. More importantly, if we measure, got some black from the belt itself, but if we measure the belt, that's the size of belt that I need for this pulley here. So we cut this and measured the length of it, that's the length of the belt. So I'm going to do the same for the other capstan belt. I have to fish a belt around here, which is going to be a little more difficult, but I got to get a belt underneath the capstan shaft here, loop it around, tie it around the capstan motor, and then we can go about getting the belts. And then the fun begins, because this is going to be a real fun one to get the belts into. The capstan belt won't be difficult at all to do, but the real drive belt is going to be a challenge on this one, just because of the way that this pulley is. There's no place to slip the belt around, and I have to take the whole reel assembly out and try to bring it in from the front. So it's going to be a challenge to get this belt on. It's not impossible, but it's not the easiest one in the world to do. Capstan belt's no problem, because there's a little, you can take off this back plate here, which I'll do. And then we can remove this back plate and then slip the belt underneath it. But that's the project. We got to get the belts for this thing, and then we're going to get this tape deck back up and running again. So here we go. 45 minutes later, I get the wire looped around, and I can now mark it where it's twisted here so that we know the approximate length. Now the new belt's obviously going to be shorter than this one because this one's not tight, but basically as long as you've got your basic size that you're going to need, at that point it's relatively easy to size it down. This is going to be an FBM flat belt. But once you know the rough circumference of the belt, it's easy to figure out the exact size that you need to get. I know that this is one of the evils of the internet. If you went back 10 years or 12 years ago when I was in the business, you could go on the internet, type in Aiwa M700 capstan drive belt size, and you'd have 100 search results coming back telling you the exact size of belt you needed to order. You could even usually find the part number for it. But now it's all, everyone's trying to out there to make money, saying, oh, you want a belt? Here, we'll sell you a kit. It's only $19.95. You know, they won't supply the information. They'll sell you the part, but they won't supply you the information so that you can source the part. That's one of the things that kind of pisses me off about the internet. Is that, you know, it was great back in the old days where you could search things out and you could get answers. And now you don't get answers. You just get someone trying to sell you something. So here's our markings on the belt, or what will be the belt when it goes in. That's roughly the size of the belt. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure this, and then I'm going to get a couple new belts. So how do we measure these belts, you might ask? Well, belts are measured in inches still here. So we'll take the belt and we'll cut our wire right at our point so that now it's the actual length of the belt, because you measure it this way, the length, not the diameter, but you measure the circumference. So this belt here, if I put one end on there and stretch it out, this belt is an 8.5 inch belt. So I will order an 8.5, and then they'll make it 10% smaller than that, and that'll be one belt. And then the second belt, we'll do the same thing. We know the size of the belt, so we'll just cut it right at the point where the wires were twisted. The small belt is a 4 inch. So we got our belts. Really quite amazed at how much these belts cost today. I can't believe how much the prices of belts have gone up over the last couple of years. I remember when I was in the industry, you could buy a pack of belts, 5 belts, for about $5 or thereabouts. And now these belts are, well, these 2 belts cost me like $15. They've really gone up. Anyway, we've got our belts here. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret on how to get a belt in that one of these belts that could be a real pain in the ass to thread. What you do is you put the belt around your pulley, and you get a piece of tape. You tape it. That'll hold the belt in place, so you can thread it up and get it over the motor. So now the belt's in place. I just have to get my little hook that I made. I've got a couple of them here. Gotta find one. Maybe my dental tool will help me if I can find that. Here it is. Okay, I've now got the belt hooked. As you can probably see, I got to now get another hook in here. We're gonna pull it over the pulley. Now I've hooked the belt onto the pulley. Just have to give it a bit of a turn so that I can grab that tape and pull the tape out. And there's our belt threaded. Now I do have a bit of a twist in it, so I just have to untwist it a bit here. There we go. Now we have the twist out of the belt. You can see the pulley in there. You can see the pulley turning. If I lift it up, see? The pulley's now turning. So now I can put the back plate back in place that holds the flywheel in place. Easier said than done with all the wires and stuff that's in the way here. There we go. I just have to tighten up the screws. Now we just have to deal with replacing this other belt, which is not going to be quite as simple as the last one, but it's still doable. We're going to take the front cover off here, and now I got to work at getting, I believe this front piece has to come out. Let's lower the camera down so you can see what I'm doing here. So we'll just remove a couple of screws here, and this face cover should come off here. That should give me access to the real drive motor. Oops, screwdriver's starting to slip a bit. Oops. Screw wasn't supposed to drop down there, but we'll get it. I think probably the easiest way to get at this is the wheel that I have to get at, and I'm going to have to take out this idler. Is probably going to have to come out of the way to get at it. It's a real tough spot to actually get at and do any work. So we'll just take this clip off, little E-ring off, lift that spring off there, and then this wheel should lift out just like that. Now I can get at the other wheel here. I should be able to slip that belt. I got the remnants of the old belt that melted in there still. I should be able to slip that second belt around this shaft, I hope, without having to take it any more apart than that. I just found the remnants of the old belt. That stuff's gross. The rubber has just totally melted. In fact, I found the pieces of the old belt inside here. That's why I'm getting it all over my fingers. This stuff's murder to get off to. It's melted rubber. Should be able to just push this belt into here, around there. Like that. And then hopefully I'll be able to pull it up on the other side. We'll just move these other pieces out of the way. I should be able to pull the camera back here so you can see what I'm doing. I should be able to grab that belt, there it is, and pull it around the pulley like that, and down and onto its drive motor like that. And hopefully, there we go. That belt is now on. You see that? That's how it's done. Real simple. Real simple. You can see if I turn the tape deck a bit to the side, you can see how I've done that. Okay, so I was able to put the belt in the front, and with the use of my dental tools here, loop it around the pulley and then put it around the motor shaft. So now we can proceed to put that idler wheel back on, complete with its spring. I don't know how good the rubber's going to be. I may have to put some rubber renew on here, but we'll try it first and see. So that slips in place here. I know this is hard for you guys to see because of the angle you're at. Maybe we raise the camera up just a little more. So this arm goes in here. Gonna get the spring up on the top here. This arm goes underneath this little clip here. It clips in there like that. And drops down like that and fits over this piece here, so that it can be operated by this lever when this lever pulls. The spring is going to attach over to here to hold that in place. There's a clip that goes on over here and a washer, so we'll put those back on now. So the washer goes on first like that, and then the clip goes on to here as well. The clip goes on right to this piece here. Of course, these clips are magnetic. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's a pain. Usually it's to the advantage if the clip is magnetic, because you can use your screwdriver to, especially when the other parts in there are not magnetic. I can clip that in there, and then I can grab my long nose pliers, and while holding it in place, pop it in place like that. Now that clip is back in place. Now we just have to reattach the spring. To do that, I need my trusty dental pick, and we'll just take the spring and reattach it around there like that. So now that spring pulls that piece back in. Before I put this face back on, I want to make sure that it actually has torque, because if not, I'll have to put some rubber renew compound on the wheel. But we're going to make sure that the unit can drive the tape first, and then we'll go ahead and put the front piece back on and test this unit. Well, the good news is that there's enough torque to drive the tape spools. The bad news is I missed one more fucking belt. Pardon my French. The belt that drives the tape counter is also melted to nothing, no existence. And the tape counter on this unit here, if you notice, if we just take a close look at this thing, this will look kind of familiar. There's the tape counter. And you see what this thing here is? There's a little magnet that rotates in front of a little Hall effect sensor right there to create a pulse train, kind of like we saw on that Sansui deck. So no tape counter turning, unit thinks the tape's at the end, tape stops. So now we gotta find a belt to put on that. And I don't know that I've got one for it, but I'll look and see if I've got a belt that I can put on the tape counter. I do have another belt here. It's probably way too big, but we'll see. It's remnants of another piece of belt that just dropped onto this thing. I might get lucky here. I might get lucky. There's a belt. There's a counter there. It's a belt around there. The other end, I can probably just put it around that pulley. This is a belt that came out of that Sony that was still in good shape. We have a belt that fits, which is pretty unbelievable. I didn't think that that belt was going to fit, but it appears that it does fit. So let's load up a tape here. Well, that's a good sign. It's playing. This song that I'm playing here is a group called the 5-Man Electrical Band. The song's called Signs, and if you were around in the 70s, well, they still play this song today. The guitar player in this band is actually the owner of this tape deck, so I figured I would show him a little tribute by playing his song as the first piece of music that I played on this thing after repairing it. So there we go, we've got it going. Sounds pretty good too. I mean, this is a recording I just grabbed off of YouTube, so it was the sound fidelity off it is not great to begin with, but hey, this is a neat deck. Take a look at this. We do have a burned out light. I'm gonna have to find a light bulb for that too, so I can make this thing look like $1,000,000. We'll get the light replaced on that thing, but I love it. It's got both a peak reading VU meter as well as your analog meters. How cool is that? That is that's incredible. Bias adjustment, you can find bias adjustment, has little lights for as you're adjusting the level for the different types of tapes. It's a 3-head deck, so you've got your monitor and source. Solenoid control. How do we get out of pause? There we go. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, that's it. It's fixed. I'm going to clean the heads on it, but yeah, it's working. It's back up and running. We'll put some rubber renew on the wheels here. I'll take this little cover off again, put some rubber renew on the wheels, and then we'll test it again. Now, as you can see, after cleaning up the rubber tire, the fast forward and rewind is nice and smooth now. So everything's looking good. Here, we're just going to put this unit back together. We'll calibrate the speed and check it over and make sure everything's still good, and then we'll get this one off the bench and get it back home so it can get sold. So we'll just check our speed. We got our speed test tape in here. We got our good old guitar tuner. Oh, way high. Way, way high. So we'll just adjust the speed. Our speed controls in the back here. Dead on. I had it changed to a different screwdriver as I found that my capacitance for my hand on the metal screwdriver was changing the pitch. When I pulled the screwdriver out, the pitch would change, so I had to go to a screwdriver that was that had the wooden handle on it, so that as to not affect the motor speed. That's it. This one's all done. Put the top on it. put the cassette housing on and send this one off because it's fixed. As usual, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.